Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Tech Tuesday on the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with this week's tech guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. If you're new to the podcast, these are all great companies for athletic directors and leaders. You should be using them. So take 3 minutes, listen to our sponsor shout outs, then listen to our Tech Tuesday guest, and then go and visit these sponsors because you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Sideline Interactive Indoor Score Tables and Video Boards. Go to their website and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. Probably one of the best equipment purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive Indoor Score Table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that demo today. We also want to say thanks to our friends at Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an AD, we were a Huddle school, and our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just love the tools the Huddle platform provides. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. We also want to thank Home Campus. Scheduling, rosters, results, facility management, you're going to use Home Campus every day. Their athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is a game changer. Go to homecampus.com. Tell them you heard about it on the podcast. That's homecampus.com. We also want to thank Beacon Creative and Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Wall of Fame has been helping schools bring their legacy to life for over a decade, but now Beacon Creative takes it to a new level. Beacon Creative is a content creation platform. They're going to take your data, your raw information, and create compelling stories that you can then share on your digital platforms. I want you to email John Townsend. That's John, John, at beaconwalloffame.com. You're going to be glad you did. Beacon Creative Wall of Fame. Let's also say thanks to Hometown. Hometown continues to be a game changer for schools with their solutions that include things like, digital ticketing, of course, but how about fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction? The list just goes on and on. Whether you're an AD, a principal, even a coach, Hometown's going to show you how to save time, how to raise more money, and how to bring your community together. You'll find it all at hometown.com, and don't forget to mention the podcast. We also want to thank Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru. Simple social media posts to celebrate victories or entire newsletters and everything in between. The team at Gipper will have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. How easy? So easy even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com for more information. Let's also say thanks to our friends at Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant AD, along with thousands of others, got his master's degree through the Ohio program, and while they were all earning their degree, they also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. That's Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Check them out today. We also want to say thanks to a new sponsor, and that's Booster Hub. You need boosters who can deliver results, not create headaches. And a weak system and volunteer turnover can leave your program vulnerable. But Booster Hub, the #1 software for booster clubs, is going to help you solve these challenges. Okay? Sponsorship payments, meal fees, concession sales, all of this is going to flow through one secure system. And when volunteers do change, nothing falls through the cracks. Fraud risks stay low and your community stays engaged. Booster Hub will also handle your communications, your volunteer scheduling, online spiritware sales, and all of this gives your boosters more time to support your program as fans. Give your boosters the platform they need to truly support your athletes. Learn more at boosterhub.com, and please don't forget to mention the podcast. And finally, we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your student athletes, your coaches, even your parents, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that connects you with all of your stakeholders. That's athleticsurveys.com. Thanks for listening. And again, don't forget to mention the podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Tech Tuesday on the Educational AD Podcast. We've got one of our regulars. If you are a regular listener, Dr. Chelsea Ale is no stranger to you. If you're new to the podcast, Chelsea has an incredible background as an athlete, as a coach. Now she's into academia. It's Dr. Chelsea Ale. She's with the University of Alabama Sport Management program, degree program. She was a Division I diver, very successful as an athlete, as a coach. And my very small claim to fame is I actually hired Chelsea as our high school diving coach at the school that I was at in Tallahassee. And it's always great to spend time with her. Dr. Chelsea Ale, welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm definitely very excited. Yes, we have a history in a couple of different ways now, which is nice. But it's always nice to reconnect and to be able to share some knowledge, insight, and experiences with you.
Oh, no, absolutely. And again, Chelsea's part of, she's training this next generation of leaders in sport management. Many, I think, will probably become athletic directors down the road. Chelsea, you and I were talking before we started recording. You got a great topic. I'm going to step back for a minute. What do you have for our listeners on this segment of Tech Tuesday?
Perfect. Yes. Thank you for, like I said, thank you for having me. So I want to take a little bit of time today to kind of talk about communication standards and accountability. We see that sports is sort of a microcosm of society, and society reflects sports. And I know that that sounds like a big word to start off with, but essentially the things that happen in sports affect society, and the things that happen in society affect sports. And right now we're seeing the landscape shift a lot. We're seeing that athletes and students have a lot more power than they've ever had before. They have a lot more influence than they've ever had before, which can be a really good thing. I mean, for them to have influence and power is great. But it's also sort of seeing this entitlement coming through. We're seeing a lot of entitlement, a lot of laziness, a lot of like expectations that just because you exist, you're going to get an A. Like students will assume just because they're signed up for a class that they're going to get an A in it, or just because they turned in work, even if it's not good, that they're going to get 100% on it. It's like, I'm trying, so I get, a gold star for it. And we also see that in athletics too. There's so many people that it's like, oh, well, I'm on the team. Why am I not a starter? Or I play the sport. Why do I not make millions of dollars? Like, instead of putting in the time and the effort, we're seeing that there's this instant gratification where people really want to get things right away, but they're not willing to put in the hard work. But in addition, we're also seeing that leaders are kind of afraid of holding people accountable and holding people to high standards because these athletes and these students have so much power over things. Because if you're not liked, if people don't like you all the time, then your job could go away. You could get fired. And it's not like be mean, but if our job in academia and our job in athletics is to make them be the best that they can possibly be. I mean, we want to make them better students. We want to make them better athletes. But at the end of the day, we want to make them better humans. We want to make them more successful in their future careers. And if you just let people kind of go by and do whatever they want or get that instant gratification without actually putting in the work, you're not setting them up for success. But because, athletes have so much power over coaches, coaches are worried about putting, that pressure on them and holding them accountable because they might leave. I've heard coaches essentially say, I'm constantly recruiting my athletes over and over and over again because we're recruiting the next generation, but we're also recruiting our athletes to stay. And then same with professors, like we have to have our students like us because the evaluations that they give us at the end of the semester affect whether we have a job, whether we have a raise, whether we are in the program for long term. So it's really tough because you want to hold them to these high standards. But if you do that, then they might not always like you and they might not always enjoy that, that relationship because they don't appreciate it. Looking back, they might say, oh, that was worth it. But in the moment, they don't like it. And so I think it's really important to kind of hold people accountable more. And so I sort of want to take some time to talk about what that looks like, the benefits of it. I'm not saying be mean, but I think having standards is something that we're lacking, and it's not intentional. It's just because we're leading with fear as opposed to thinking about building the next generation, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, you bring up a ton of great points, and yes, it does make sense. Um, looking generationally, I think I'm probably two generations older than you, but I want to say that, let's say, young people, high school students, college students, I think they probably haven't changed that much in the, you know, 50 years since I've been in high school. But what has changed, as you mentioned, is society, that there are more freedoms. Back in the day, high school students couldn't transfer. I mean, you were born in a town, you grew up in that town, or if you moved, you went to that school, and there wasn't this epidemic of high school transfers. Obviously, we have that now. It's different from state to state. In Florida has had the high school transfer portal for about 10 years now. And at the college level, the transfer portal has given students, I don't know if it's power or if it's freedom to move. And I already shared this one with you. Back in the day, I think most kids, they couldn't wait they dreamed about playing for their high school team. And now you have students that are saying, well, how many reps am I going to get? Am I going to be a starter? And if they don't get the answer they want, they they have options, whereas back in the day they didn't. So I don't think the kids have changed. It's just that they have those freedoms. But your other point about the adults in charge, holding them accountable and keeping high standards, I think that's what our listeners, are really interested in. How do they do that in this society where, again, it's no longer, and it's probably a good thing, my way or the highway, but, kids have a lot more, like I said, options.
Yeah, and I mean, transferring can be a good thing. I mean, I was an athlete at a college that I didn't want to be at, and I wasn't able to transfer because of the rules that existed back then. And now having the transfer portal, I mean, there are reasons that people transfer. They might have mental struggles, they might have issues with their coaches, academic reasons. So there, it is a benefit. The problem is we're seeing it so easily and so quickly. It's like, oh, well, this school's going to give me more money. This school's going to give me more playing time. This school's going to promote me a little bit better. It's like, put in the work where you are, like commit to it, build a culture, make yourself better. Also, putting in hard work builds resilience. Maybe you're not actually the best player, so like maybe you got to work a little bit harder. Like don't just transfer and give up. It's the same thing. Like I'll see students the first day of class, I put out my standards, my expectations. I tell them exactly what I'm going to do, and students will drop my class because they're like, oh, she's tough, she's mean. And I'm like, well, once you get to know me, I'm actually really nice, but I'm going to hold you accountable. And so they immediately will like, I'm just going to take out a different professor. And it's like, okay, that's fine if you don't want to be held to standards, but my goal is not to just teach you content. My goal is to actually set you up for success in your career. And coaches' goals are not just always about teaching sports. It's about teaching you those life lessons and everything. That's why I became a professor because I liked what sports taught. And I was like, let me do that to like the masses kind of. So yeah, I mean, I think it's important to sort of talk about it. I always believe that having like clear standards for everyone is incredibly important. Now, it could be your star player or your worst player, it could be your top student or your worst student. Having them all have the exact same policies, expectations, procedures, like you know exactly what you're getting from me no matter what. And it can be challenging. Like your favorite athlete or favorite student could not do what they're supposed to do, and you have to hold them accountable. And you're like, oh, come on, I don't, I really like you. But if you don't do that, then they sort of feel like, oh, okay, well, that person gets away with whatever. It's not fair that I get in trouble or whatever it might be. It actually sets a much better culture because if everyone knows what the standards are, what the policies are, what the expectations are, if they're late, this happens. If they don't do this, this happens. Like, then they know no matter what, you're going to hold them accountable. They know what they can and cannot do, but they also know that you're not going to have favorites. Now, I might have favorite behaviors. I might have people I like a little bit more, which is totally fine. But if you don't have everyone the same, then there's not that respect because essentially, if you don't hold people the same standards no matter what, then they're not going to respect you because they're going to be like, oh, she's got favorites. She doesn't, like me for whatever reason. So the first part is essentially just having like clear communication and transparency. Like you want to tell your athletes, you want to tell whoever, like what you can expect from me, what I stand for, what you need to do to earn more money, what you need to do to earn more playing time, what standards I have, what policies I have, what procedures I have, like whatever it is, like just be open and honest with everyone. It could sound like, oh, so much communication, like they don't need to know all that. But if people know exactly what to expect from you and expect from your program from the beginning, then you get that buy-in, you get people to understand. But you also, if you're not doing something, that's why you're not getting playing time. If you're not doing something, that's why you're not earning more money. And they know what to do to get better. Or if they have to sit out because they were late for practice, okay, you told them that that was going to happen. So I think really just kind of having like that transparency and stuff really sort of helps. And we don't really want to coddle our athletes. Like, I'm not saying, again, don't be mean. Don't make it like too harsh, but tell them exactly what you're going to do and why. I think the why is also really important because if I just say, this happens if you're late, this happens if you don't do stuff, they're going to be like, oh, well, they're just being really mean. But if you say why, that's important. As an athlete, I was always like, tell me why. If you explain to me why I'm doing something, I have no problem doing it. But if you don't tell me why, I'm going to question you constantly. So I think making sure that you have those expectations, but there's a why behind it. Don't just make standards because you think that's what you're supposed to do. Like I say, early is on time, when time is late, late is unacceptable. The reason I say that is because I find it really disrespectful when people are late because essentially they're saying your time is not as valuable as their time. And so when I tell that to people, they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense." Or if I say, you can't turn in stuff late, it's like, well, why not? Well, in the real world, you turn in stuff late, you're going to get fired. You're going to lose your job. You're going to have issues. You don't pick up a recruit from the airport. You're not going to tell your boss, "Oh, my bad, I forgot." You're going to get fired. So I think explaining the why is huge because once you tell them the why, there's a lot more of that like buy-in with everything. So they're not just like, oh, well, they're just telling me all these standards because they're trying to be mean or whatever. It's like, no, I'm doing it because of this and I'm trying to make you a better person.
Again, a ton of great points. You talk about playing favorites and being transparent. I remember I taught college for a little bit, but college and high school, I would tell the students, hey, I just want you to know, I play favorites, and these are my favorites. Students come to class every day, students that are engaged, they're taking notes, they're participating in discussions without trying to dominate the discussion. Students that turn in their work on time. Here's your syllabus. Every single assignment, every single quiz, every single exam, it's got the date. You know exactly what to expect. You signed up for this class. Make sure this is part of your calendar. So I was tried to make it, informative and transparent, but just be very upfront. Hey, this is what we expect. And as a coach, you're absolutely right. I think it's not critical that your students like you, but it really, or your athletes like you, but it really does help if they have some kind of relationship with you. Yeah, you're the coach, you're the athlete, you're not their friend, their buddy, etc. And I think that's where a generation or two of students have been hurt by their parents trying to be their buddy more than their parent. It's just my own personal observation. But yeah, things that I think successful coaches and teachers and leaders have learned or put into practice. That's why they're called best practices. They're doing those things, and that's why they are successful. Whereas somebody might struggle and not have the success that they could have because they're failing in those transparency, communication, accountability issues.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think if you don't hold people to standards and you don't communicate with them, you're essentially like you're saying, I don't think you're capable of working harder. I don't think you're capable of doing better. Like if I say, okay, these are the standards, I'm going to uphold you to them, I'm essentially saying, I think you're capable of doing this. Where if you say, yeah, I'm not going to hold you to any standards or anything, then you're basically saying, like, I don't think you're capable of doing this. I had a student yesterday come up to me and say, "Oh, when is our assignment due?" And I told him it was due, in 4 days from now or 5 days from now. And he goes, "I don't know if I'll be able to get to that in time." And I said, I believe in you. I said, I believe that over the next 5 days, you will have time to do it and do it well. I said, I know you can do it. I think he expected me to say, "Oh yeah, that's fine. You can turn it in lane." And I was like, "No, I believe in you. You can do this." Because I was like, that doesn't help you with anything. And so I think it's important to sort of say like, look, I believe in you and I want to push you. Like I'll have students that when I grade things, they'll be like, well, you took off points for this and you made comments about this. And I'm like, yes, because I want you to get better every single time. And I want to push you every single time. And that's what's great. Like I had athletes when I was coaching that in the moment they might not like me. Like in that moment, I know like in general they love me and they respect me and everything, but in that moment they didn't like me. And I was like, I don't want you to like me every single day because if you like me every day, I'm not pushing you enough. I'm not holding you accountable enough. And I'm not pushing you out of your comfort zone because I know for me, like I had a very nice comfort zone. I'm like, I don't want to do things that scare me. I did a sport that was super scary. Like I don't do stuff that scares me. But if someone wasn't pushing me, I would have been fine in my little bubble. And so for my athletes, it's like, no, I'm going to push you a little bit. And then after they accomplish something they were afraid of or do something they weren't sure about, they look back and they're like, okay, that was worth it. Or I get it now. Or I understand why you did X, Y, or Z, or what, why this was important. And it's the same thing in academics. Like I have students at the beginning of the semester like, oh, she's going to be mean, she's tough. And then the end, they're like, oh, I actually learned a lot from this class. Oh, I can really use this in my real world. Or, oh my gosh, this helped me in my career and my future. Like, I can't believe that what I learned in that class really set me up for success, and in the moment at the beginning, they're like, this is terrible. And then they look back and then you realize they actually do like you. They do respect you. But in the moment, they might not always your athlete should not hate you and your your student should not hate you, but you have to be able to be okay with not always being the favorite all the time because if you love me every second of every day, that means that I'm not pushing you enough and I'm not doing my job the best.
Right. Well, and again, you understand this as an athlete and as a coach, and now in the classroom that we get better through challenge and through failure. You try a new skill, it doesn't work the first time. Well, you come back and you do it again, and then your coach is there or your teacher is there to help you through that challenging time. And that's where I think many parents miss the boat. They want to remove failure, they want to remove that challenge from their child's life. They don't want them to experience failure, and they just don't understand. Well, that's how you get better. That's what coaches are for, to help people through those challenges, through those failures. And guess what? When you master that new skill, you're going on to something even more challenging because that's how you get better.
Right. I mean, I was a successful athlete, not because I was naturally the most talented. I was successful because I kept pushing myself to be better. But there were some lessons that I learned that, I didn't want to learn, how to overcome injuries, how to handle other types of problems and stuff. But if you don't push through those challenges, you're not going to get on the other side. I mean, even when I was in my PhD program, I wanted to quit every single day. Like it was so challenging for me. And I was like, this is miserable. But now looking back, I'm like, okay, I learned a lot from this. I'm glad I survived. I'm glad I finished it. Same with like my athletic career. Like there were days where I'm like, I don't want to do this sport. This sport is terrible. Like it's not. I love the sport, but there's just things you're like, I don't want to do this. But if we don't allow people to fail, if we don't allow people to, exceed our expectations or push them a little bit every single day, then we're not doing them any help. But the problem is because we're coddling people so much and we're so worried about them liking us or so worried about them not transferring or so worried about our jobs that we're like, well, I don't want to push them because I don't want them to dislike me, or I don't want to hold them accountable because I don't want them to dislike me, or I don't want them to go somewhere else because, they don't like the way I do it because I actually like make them try harder. It's like we're not helping them. Like we're essentially telling them it's okay to give up, it's okay to fail, it's okay to take the easy way out. It's all right to just put in minimal effort. And then that just creates a terrible culture because you're creating a culture that essentially says, we don't care if you get better and we don't care if you're a better human. We're just here to make you happy. And then it's like the prisoners running the asylum or whatever it is, it's like the more we say, okay, I'm going to take down my standards to help you like be happier, the worse it's going to be because then everyone's going to be like, well, I don't have to do this in this area and I don't have to do this in this area and I don't have to do this in this area. And we also like if you're a student athlete, what you do in academia affects what you do in athletics and vice versa because it's not like all of a sudden you're a different person in the classroom versus the pool or the arena. You're still learning those same skills. So if your teachers are not holding you accountable, you're like, well, I don't have to work hard in athletics. Or if your coaches are not teaching accountability, then you think the same thing happens in academia. And so I feel like we're just leading so scared that we're doing everyone kind of a disservice. And I'm not saying everyone's doing this, and I know it's not. It's just this, we see in society now, it's, oh yeah, well, I don't have to try hard. I'll just transfer. I'll go somewhere else. I'll do something different. And it's kind of sad that we see that so often, I think.
Chelsea, topics that you brought up today, I think it's something that every single one of our listeners is dealing with as an AD, as a coach. They might be dealing with it with adult coaches or with their student athletes. Now, you're working with college students now, and not in some fluff subject. There's it's, let's say, some high level learning going on here. What are some things that you have found to be helpful as a leader, as an instructor, as a professor in achieving these, or I guess maybe overcoming these challenges that we've talked about with communication, with accountability, with students? What are some tips that maybe you can pass on to our listeners that you found have worked for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the first thing is that we as leaders have to learn how to adapt too, right? Like, the way academia was 50 years ago versus 30 years ago versus today is very different. And so it's okay for us to shift and adapt and change. And every semester I'm changing the things that I'm doing and how I'm doing them to try and relate more to the students, but also make it more meaningful and impactful. And so I don't want to say, okay, it's got to be this way no matter what, because I think we have to change with culture and society and what's taking place and being okay with that change. I also think it's really important to sort of treat everyone the same, but also realize that everyone learns differently. Whether that's in athletics or academia, I mean, some people need you to coddle them, some people need you to be stern with them, some need you to be more sarcastic, some need you to show them. And so I think it's really important to understand that so that as you're teaching, whether it's sports or working with different individuals in general, you get the best out of them by doing things different ways. Like sometimes you might make people read something, other times you might actually demonstrate something because we all learn differently and there's not like a one size fits all way to lead and to structure. I also teach in my classes a lot about leadership. I think leadership is an incredibly important thing, but I think there's so many people out there that think that they're leaders without actually knowing how to lead appropriately and what that means. And leadership is so much more than just I'm in charge. It's about handling each situation differently. Some situations you need to be autocratic, like you need to decide in that moment what's the best thing and how to handle that situation. Other situations you need to be more democratic. You need to ask, people's thoughts and opinions and have everyone kind of be involved in that process. At other points, you need to maybe be a little bit more of a servant leader and do what's the best for everyone and make sure that everyone's happy. And I think when we're looking at academics or athletics, and if you're in a leading position, really looking at each situation, each scenario that's taking place and figure out the best way to lead in that. Because if we just say, okay, I'm going to be like this no matter what, you're not going to get the best out of everyone around you, but also whatever situation might not need that specific way to handle it. If we're running into, let's see, a scandal, okay, in the moment I need to handle it really quickly. But if we're trying to figure out how to develop maybe the best curriculum for a class, then okay, let's get everyone together and let's talk about it. And so in my classes, I try to do a lot of different activities with them. I do a lot of real world examples or a lot of real world situations and scenarios so that they can figure out, okay, how's the best way for me to handle this situation? And how is the best way for me to do this? And I think that that can translate into athletics too, because if you let your athletes sort of buy into the system, but also give them kind of a say. Now, I'm not saying let them do everything they want to do themselves, but like, okay, maybe today, like, I want you to work on this specific thing, but what is the way you want to work on it? Or how's the way you want to handle this? Or as a team, we're struggling with this area. Let's all come together and figure out how we can make this area better. Instead of me just telling you, this is what we're going to do, let's talk about it. Let's have different ideas. And I think when we give our athletes and our students a little bit of that autonomy or a little bit of that ability to be part of the decision-making process, it helps them a lot. Now, I'm not going to tell my students, yeah, tell me if you want to turn this assignment in late, because they're not going to be allowed to do that. But if I was like, okay, here's a situation, we need to make this happen. How would you guys do it? And I'll have 50 or 15 different groups and they'll all do it differently. But it depends on them or how they see it being impactful for them. But I think then they sort of buy into it a little bit more. And athletics is the same way. When I would coach, I'd say, okay, today in practice, we need to work on these things, but I'm going to let you decide how you get to that point or how you work on it or what makes the most sense to you. Or then there'd be days where I'm like, you know what? Today I want you to work on what you feel like is your biggest weakness, something that you're really struggling with. And I think it's okay to do that. It's okay to give them a little bit of that power because when people have that autonomy, they feel more emotionally connected, they feel more invested, and they actually buy in a lot more. And then they're like, oh, this person cares what I think. Again, still keeping your standards there, but letting them feel more comfortable with it. And so I always think it's important to sort of acknowledge the fact that we're not all the same. We don't all think the same. My way of doing it might make sense for my brain, but it might make zero sense for yours. And I also ask my students all the time, like, do you have questions? Does that make sense to you? Because in my head, it makes sense, but I want to make sure that I'm wording it in a way that makes sense to them. Same with athletics. I know I had coaches would talk to me all the time about stuff, and I'm like, what on earth are you saying to me right now? I'm like, I need you to explain that in a different way. And I think we have to ask, does that make sense? Or do you understand what I'm saying so that you can reevaluate? I also in class do little like check-ins every now and then. Are you doing okay? Can I help you with anything? And they see that as I care about them, but it's also a way for me to say, okay, am I explaining this in a way that makes sense to you? Do you need help with something else? And it could be academics or athletics or whatever it might be, but you do the same thing with your athletes. Are you doing okay? Is there anything else I can help you with? And they could say, oh, yeah, I'm great. Or, no, I'm really struggling with X, Y, or Z. And so adding that personal component to show that you really care, I think helps. But when you care like that, then when you hold them accountable, they're not like, oh, they're mean. It's like they care about me and they want the best for me. So that's why they're holding me to these standards. So it all kind of like it goes full circle, I think, with it.
Well, you probably saw me writing down some of those ideas. Great stuff. The last one that you mentioned, it's so easy to do and yet so powerful. The check-in, as a coach, talking to your student athletes, hey, how's it going? And in a sincere, inquiring way, not just a throwaway line.
Mhm.
Um, I think I built more relationships than I really understand with the students saying, hey, I'm struggling with math or calculus, whatever it was. And I would say, hey, after school, go see, Mrs. Jones, whoever the teacher was, for 30 minutes, then come out to practice, get in a little extra time. And it didn't disrupt the practice. The kid didn't take advantage of it, but it's built that relationship or made that relationship even stronger. And again, it was just so easy to do. Great advice. Chelsea, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and dig a little bit deeper, find out more about how you work as a leader with your students, your people, or just pick your brain and add you to their network, what's the best way that our listeners can connect with Dr. Chelsea Ale?
Yeah, I mean, I would be happy to talk to anyone about it. I'm a little of a leadership nerd, I think. I love it. I've worked with some not so great leaders, worked with some wonderful ones, so I'm always trying to be the best leader. But LinkedIn, I think, is the best way to connect with me just because it's an easy way to find me. You just put in my name and it's pretty easy. Plus, if they've listened to your podcast, I'm sure there'll be a link or a connection to my LinkedIn page on there. So that's just the easiest way to connect with me through that. So yeah, I'd be happy to connect with anyone that wants to talk about anything.
No, absolutely. Dr. Chelsea Ale, University of Alabama. You can find her on LinkedIn, and we'll put a contact on in the show notes as well. Thanks again for coming back on the podcast. Always enjoy spending time with you. All the best as 2026 continues to unfold. And we're going to have to connect together in person sometime down the road here.
Absolutely. I would love to come back to Florida where it's a little bit warmer.
Well, not today, but yeah,
Not today,
absolutely
but
it is. Well, again, thanks for coming on. We also want to say thanks to our listeners and remind you all that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do Tech Tuesday just about every week and just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices from the world of athletics. So please come back and join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Chelsea Ale, always a great time with Chelsea Ale. Before we go, it's always a great time if you have these sponsors, these companies on your team. Let's give them a shout out one more time. Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I was an AD, I made sure our school was a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com. Hometown, digital ticketing, website construction, fundraising, and a lot more. Go to hometown.com to find out all the ways they can help you. Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant AD, along with thousands of others, got his master's through the Ohio program. Go to Ohio University, take a look at their online master's degree in athletic administration. Let's say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru. That's Gipper.com. Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Probably the best purchase we ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. If you're not using a survey to take the pulse of your student athletes, your parents, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Booster Hub, it's the #1 software for booster clubs, is going to solve communication, security, money issues. Check out boosterhub.com. And Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every single day. Scheduling, rosters, eligibility. Go to homecampus.com. And finally, Beacon Creative Wall of Fame, part of the Vital Signs Wall of Fame family. Check out Beacon Creative and how they can be a content creation specialist for you and your program. As always, we appreciate you listening. Please come back again and join us on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast.